Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Week 10 edition of the Commissioner's Corner / the Michigan Ultimate Survivor League podcast. As always, I'm your commissioner, James L. Seagraves, wearing the Lions colors proudly this week after they dismantled the Packers. It was an ugly win, but nevertheless, they won. So as crappy as the Lions are, at least we can say we beat the Packers. They're free-falling, by the way. I don't see them winning that division any way, shape, or form. But that's not what we're here for. We're not here to talk about the NFL. We're here to talk about the MUSL, a.k.a. the Muscle. I've done extensive research as to how these playoff scenarios can break down. We're going to get right to it because it is a little involved. So no top 25 breakdown because like I always said, the top 25 doesn't really mean anything when it comes down to it. It just gives a gauge as to where people are. We no longer need that gauge because we have the gauge in these playoff scenarios now. Okay, so I'm going to attempt to screen share this awesome little PowerPoint that I made. Oh, yes. So bear with me here because I'm kind of trying to find this. All right. So here we go. We're going to start with the Jeff Lebowski Conference now. This is pretty critical here because there's really only two teams that can win this conference at this point. Tell me something good. By losing last week to, I believe, 45-7, they made it to where this game is worth all the marbles. If Tell Me Something Good had won last week and Brady Bush had lost this week, then Tell Me Something Good would already have it wrapped up, basically. But because they lost, Brady or Bush lost too, that doesn't hurt them nearly as much because these two haven't played each other yet, and this is where all the marbles are. Okay, now there is another team in here, if you notice right here, where it says Wolfpack eliminated from conference title hopes because of loss to Brady O'Bush. That's because even if Brady O'Bush wins, Tell Me Something Good would be 8-3, Brady O'Bush would be 8-3, and then Wolfpack wins, they'd be 8-3. Brady O'Bush would still get it based on the fact that Brady O'Bush would then have beaten Tell Me Something Good and the Wolfpack. That's why it says this here. So if you look right here, scenario 1, it says whoever wins this matchup between Tell Me Something Good and Brady O'Bush wins the conference. That's literally all there is to it. Nothing else can happen. That game is for that conference and a first-round bye. So Wolfpack, you still want to win because you want to get in on record. So play your best lineup possible, and you will probably get in on a record, especially if you're 8-3, you're going to get in, no doubt about it. So I'm hoping that clicking. Okay, so next up is Jeff Spicoli Conference. This is an easy one. The New Orleans Rock Chucks have already won. Yep, that's all there is to it. Going back out of here real quick. Let me pull up the standings here and show you why that is. If you look right here, this will show you New Orleans Rock Chucks are 8-2. Sandbaggers 45-7. So I couldn't have lost to them. 45-7. Beats by Ray. Live Long and Prosper. All 6-4. All still very much in the hunt for a playoff spot. But obviously New Orleans Rock Chucks are not going to lose 2 games this week because they have a 2-game advantage. So congratulations to Aaron King. Your team has won the Jeff Spicoli Conference. So good job to you. Moving on, the Brody Bruce Conference. This gets a little more complicated because this is another, Tell Me Something Good is a huge game this week as they play Brady O'Bush because that's for the conference. And then this game could be for the conference as well. So 3 teams in the hunt, the Broskis, Sioux Girls 1 Cup, and Brady O'Bush, all 3 of which are 7-3 currently. Right. So let me just change this. There we go. That sounds a little better, I think. Maybe not. Anyway. So there are really 3 scenarios here. Scenario 1 is the Broskis win, they're in, no matter what. No matter what else happens, if the Broskis win, they win the conference. End of story. They have beaten both Sioux Girls 1 Cup and Brady's Balls. So they win. If they control their own destiny. The Broskis win, they're in. They win the division. Scenario 2 would be if the Broskis lose and Sioux Girls 1 Cup, because Sioux Girls 1 Cup plays Brady's Balls this week. Okay, it's very important to know that. If the Broskis lose and Sioux Girls 1 Cup wins, aka beats Brady's Balls, Sioux Girls and Cup would be 8-3. The other 2 would be 7-4. The Sioux Girls 1 Cup would win the conference. It's pretty easy there. Where it gets a little, this isn't even that complicated. And Brady's Balls wins that game. Brady's Balls would be 8-3, and the other 2 would be 7-4. Thus, Brady Balls would win that conference. So, Broskis win. They get the conference. Easy enough. Broskies lose, whoever wins the Sioux Girls 1 Cup Brady's Balls game wins the conference. Still relatively simple compared to what's going to be coming here in just a minute. So trying to get the sound right. I don't know. It's weird. So speaking of more complicated things, as you can see, whoa. How do I go back? Let's go previous here. So speaking of more complicated things, this is one of them here. The Clark Griswold Conference, there's a very good chance that the Red Wings will win this conference. If you see most of these scenarios down here, the Red Wings will win. But let's spell them out. So technically, there are 5 teams available. Actually, really, there's 4, but there are 5 teams that are involved in the equation of how to win this thing, okay? Red Wings, the Black Hole, the Wyans, Vic in the Box, and Potterville Pussycats, okay? 4 of those 5 teams can still win this conference. One of them, however, is unfortunately mathematically eliminated, but they still want to win because of the fact that they will probably get in based on record anyway. So, what are the scenarios? Here we go. Scenario 1, the Red Wings win. They're in no matter what else happens because the Red Wings have the tiebreaker over the Black Hole that beat them a couple weeks ago. Everything else, well, this other one's kind of simple. Scenario 2, the Red Wings lose and the Black Hole wins. They'd be 8-3. No one else would be 8-3 in the division. Thus, Black Hole would win the conference. Now, this is where it gets really crazy, okay? If, I believe DeWyans is playing Potterville this week, I believe. So, makes things a little bit easier. Scenario 3, the Red Wings and everything else from here on out, the Red Wings and Black Hole has to both lose, okay? So, if the Wyans beat Potterville and Vic in the Box wins, okay, there would thus be a 4-way tie between the Red Wings, the Black Hole, the Wyans, and Vic in a Box, okay? Of those 4 teams, Red Wings are 3-0 against the other 3. The other 3 are 1-2, thus the Red Wings would win. Scenario 4, Red Wings win. Or sorry. I see Red Wings win. Scenario 4, Red Wings and Black Hole loses. DeWyans wins over Potterville, and then Vic in the Box loses. Thus, you have 3 teams fighting for it. So you'd go the 3 teams head-to-head record, which the Red Wings in this case would be 2-0. Black Hole would be 1-1. DeWyans would be 0-2. Thus, Red Wings would win if that scenario happened. Scenario 5, Red Wings, Black Hole lose. Potterville beats DeWyans, and Vic in the Box wins. In which case, Red Wings would be 2-1 against the other 3 teams. Vic in the Box, Potterville Pussycats, and the Black Hole be 1-2 against the other 3 teams, thus obviously given to Red Wings. Red Wings won critical games is what the point is here, okay? Now, the most complicated of all the scenarios is the following. If the Red Wings and Black Hole lose, both of them lose, Potterville beats the Wyans, and Vic in the Box loses, okay? At which point, Red Wings, Black Hole, and Potterville Pussycats would all be 1-1 against each other, so it would go to the point standings. Now, in this situation, Black Hole has a sizable advantage of winning this conference, okay? Because if you look over on the right-hand side here, we have the Black Hole is 823 points currently, Red Wings 775, and Potterville Pussycats 752. Very unlikely that Potterville Pussycats would outscore the other 2 by that much, but technically speaking, it's happened. Someone scored, I believe, 140 points, I think, is their all-time record in this league. So it could happen. So Potterville is going to be shooting for the fences, no doubt about it. His only chance of winning is outscoring everybody else and having a bunch of help. So those, I believe, are the perceived playoff scenarios for that conference. I spent quite a bit of time, so it should be all of them. Ron Burgundy Conference, a lot easier here. Teams in the hunt, we have Cheechkee 8-2 and Will Fork on First Date 7-3. There are basically 3 scenarios here. Scenario 1, if Cheechkee wins, they're in. No doubt about it. Scenario 2, Cheechkee loses and Will Fork on First Date loses. Cheechkee wins the conference. Obviously, they'd be 8-3. Will Fork on First Date would be 7-4. Scenario 3, Cheechkee loses and Will Fork on First Date wins. Will Fork holds the tiebreaker over Cheechkee from a Week 9 victory just a couple weeks ago. So if that happens, Cheechkee would lose the conference. Will Fork on First Date would win the conference. So odds are that Cheechkee will win this conference, but Will Fork on First Date has a significant chance of winning. So moving on. This one goes a little bit weird too. So, in the Frank Drebin Conference, love this pick, by the way, there are 3 teams in the hunt, technically. Stafford Johnson goes deep, 7-3. Oviedo Honey Badgers, 7-3. Well, it's a Big Z show, 7-3. In the scenario 1/5, if you want to call it that, if all the teams win, then none of them are playing each other. If all 3 teams win or all 3 teams lose, they are all 1-1 against each other, and thus it would go to points, which is why Stafford Johnson goes deep has the best shot. They have 795 points. Oviedo Honey Badgers has 765 points. Big Z, out of it realistically, he's like 200 points behind, primarily because of glitches in the system, I'm guessing, but, it is what it is. So there's that. Scenario 2, if Stafford Johnson goes deep, wins, and Oviedo Honey Badgers wins, and Big Z loses, that would be Stafford Johnson and Oviedo Honey Badgers would be tied. They have the tiebreaker, thus Stafford Johnson would win the conference. Scenario 3, Stafford Johnson wins, Big Z wins, and OHB loses. Z has a tiebreaker over Stafford Johnson. So in that case, Stafford Johnson would lose, Big Z would win the conference if Stafford Johnson and Big Z win, but Oviedo Honey Badgers loses. Scenario 4, Big Z wins, Oviedo Honey Badgers wins, and Stafford Johnson loses. Oviedo Honey Badgers has a tiebreaker over Big Z, thus Big Z would be out, and Oviedo Honey Badgers would win. So 3 teams very much alive in this thing. 2 more so than the other, because if they all win or all lose, Big Z, unfortunately, is pretty much out of it because of the 0-point performances that glitched out. So we don't have to worry about that happening next year, though. Derek Zoolander Conference, a little more straightforward. Only 2 teams in the hunt here. I believe it's Robert Griffin. No, not Robert Griffin III. Team Bob Ames 2.0 would be mathematically alive, but he's lost to both of these teams. Thus, it wouldn't matter. So, Squadrels, they control their own destiny. If they win, they're in. Okay? If Squadrels loses and Tecumseh loses, regardless of what Team Bob Ames 2.0 does, Squadrels win because they've owned the tiebreaker on both teams. So there's a couple ways they could get in that way. I know Squadrels is spelled differently there. My apologies. So third scenario would be Squadrels lose and Tecumseh wins. Tecumseh would be 9-2 and Squadrels would be 8-3. Thus, Tecumseh would win the conference. So 2 out of these 3 scenarios, Squadrels wins the conference. 1 out of the 3, Tecumseh wins the conference. Yep. Then there's this. Kirk Lazarus Conference is getting craziness. I'm going to have to even break this down myself here. So we have 4 teams in the hunt. I believe this is kind of like the situation before where I think Vinsanity cannot win, but he needs to try to win to get in on record anyway. So here goes. So with this, Robert Griffin III, Collector Kings, Fearboner, and Vinsanity are all still technically in the equation to figure out who wins. Might not all be able to win, but they're all in the equation to see who wins. First and foremost, if Robert Griffin III wins, they win the conference, and life is a lot easier for me. Because they'd be 9-2, everyone else would be best case scenario 8-3. So here comes the other scenarios. Scenario 2, RGT loses, the other 3 win. RGT and Fearboner would be 2-1 against the others in the tiebreaker, and it would go to points between those 2 only. Currently, Fearboner has about a 4-point edge on Robert Griffin III, so that's incredibly close. Okay. Scenario 3, Robert loses, Fearboner and Collector Kings win, at which point it'd be a 3-way tie between RGT, Fearboner, and Collector Kings. It'd go to points here. Collector Kings is a little bit further out of it, 782 points, so they're about 20 points behind, but still totally doable to win that conference. Scenario 4, RGT loses. Fearboner and Vinsanity win. RGT and Fearboner would go at it again to see who wins. Vinsanity would be out of that because of the fact that they'd be 0-2, so they would not be in the tiebreaker at that point. RGT loses, of course. Only Fearboner wins. It would be RGT versus Fearboner. Fearboner has the tiebreaker, thus Fearboner would win the conference without even having to go to the points. Scenario 6. Oh, I have 2 different scenario 6s here. RGT loses. Collector Kings and Vinsanity win, at which point it'd be a 3-way tie. RGT would be 2-0. Collector Kings 0-2. Vinsanity 1-1. Thus RGT would win the conference. Scenario 7, we're going to call it 6.5 here, I guess. RGT loses and only Collector Kings wins, at which point it's a two-way tie between RGT and Collector Kings. Thus, Collector Kings is 1-0 against them. They have the tiebreaker. Collector Kings would... Is that even accurate? I thought RGT lost to Collector Kings. This could all be messed up here. Oh, my God. Pretty sure RGT would lose that. Let me double check these numbers. I hope I didn't make this graphic and be like, oh, wait a minute. Of course, I wouldn't be surprised if they spent about 8 years doing this. Yeah, so that is wrong. RGT, this is just one little mistake here. RGT did beat Collector Kings, so that would not, they'd be 1-0 and 0-1. I just put them in the wrong spots. So, yes, because Collector, okay. Just this one little mess up here. Thank God I didn't have to do it all over again. In this case, RGT would win the conference because they beat Collector Kings. So I remember that game. It was the infamous game of controversy. Scenario 7, RGT loses and Vinsanity wins only. RGT's 1-0, Vinsanity 0-3. Scenario 8, RGT loses, all others lose. RGT obviously wins the conference. So odds are good that RGT is going to win this conference for sure. There are several spots where RGT wins, but there are a couple where, I mean, the Collector Kings could potentially win this still. Fearboner could win it without even having to go to the points. So a lot of things can happen. That was the last one. So this is the playoff spots 9 through 18 record based. Okay. Obviously, these are all the 7-3 teams. This is not counting the 8-2 teams because of the fact that, well, they're going to be 7-3. So all these teams are still in the hunt technically, all the way down to Sandbaggers. All these teams need to play as hard as they can because they can make it in on wins, no doubt. So even though you might be ranked low or not even ranked in the case of roster baiters, come hard this week, guys. It is critical. So, yeah. Brady O'Bush obviously is in the best case here because they can make it in 3 separate ways. Brady O'Bush is going to make the playoffs, no doubt about it. The league wants them to make it in on record or based on winning their conference because they're so far ahead in points. So, but virtually no shot of them really. I mean, I guess I shouldn't say there's no shot. If they lose and everyone else wins down here, then they might not make it in on record because there's a lot of 7-3 teams, no doubt. So, yep, there's that. Moving on. In terms of the playoff spots, this is an interesting number here because, I mean, I know it's just a bunch of crap here. You can't see what is what. We've taken out Brady O'Bush from this. So what to look at now is like the points here. Way over here on the edge, you can't really see it. Sioux Girls 1 Cup outside of Brady O'Bush has the best chance to make it in via points. Of course, they could win the conference too. 52 is the Mike is only 1.85 points away. The Broskis 5.97. The Black Hole 11.56. Cheechki 14.89. Tecumseh. Most of these teams are going to make it on record anyway, though. So you're looking down here like things like the Wolfpack getting Schneidered, Kazoo Crazies, Roster Baiters, Fear Boner, Stafford Johnson goes deep, ACL Terror, Collector Kings. All these guys have a shot. All of them. If your team is on this screen, then they have a shot at making it in based on points. Outside they may be, but nevertheless they are there. So there's that. So yeah, that's that. That's where we stand right now. Obviously, the best chances, we've spelled them out in great detail. Hopefully I didn't make any errors. If I did, that'll be sick. I was a little worried when I saw the Collector Kings beat RGT. I knew that was not the case. That's why I knew there's something wrong there. But whatever. We've had a long week, you know. So I'm trying to do things best I can, you know. That's about it, I think. I don't know if there's anything else. A few people still haven't paid. I still have not collected money from some of the like receptacles, such as Ryan Frazier. I know you have a bunch of money for me. Steve Loomis, you have a bunch of money from me. Please give me that money as soon as possible. If you have not paid via PayPal, you can send the PayPal payment to Cassandra Seagraves, Seagraves, at gmail.com. And yeah, I'm going to be sending out messages for those who have not paid yet. Most people have paid that are going to pay, thank God. Some of the teams that abandoned, we're going to hunt them down and shoot them. Not really. Not really. It's home security. Take it easy. So yeah, that's it, man. I'm gonna go play some Star Wars Battlefront. You guys have a wonderful day.